All righty. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the University of Hartford Admission and Financial Aid Info Session. My name is Nathan. I'm one of the Assistant Directors of Admission here at the University of Hartford. And we're so happy to be able to bring you folks here tonight. While we wish circumstances were a little different, we could bring you all to campus and do this in a more personal experience. We're trying to replicate as much of that opportunity as we can for you folks using this presentation this evening and this Q&A opportunity. So again, my name is Nathan. I'm one of the Assistant Directors of Admission here at the institution, and I'm joined tonight by Catherine Deacon, who's going to introduce herself as well.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. As Nate pointed out, we'd love to be welcoming you to campus to do this in person this evening, but we're really happy to have you join us. Again, as Nate mentioned, my name is Catherine Deacon, and I'm the Director of Student Financial Aid here at the University of Hartford.
Awesome. With no further ado, I'm going to get rolling. One thing I do want to allow you all to be aware of is that we do have a Q&A section at the bottom of the screen. Please feel free to drop any questions you have throughout the presentation there. We do have a couple of additional staff members here to help answer questions, but we are going to try to answer a lot, over the chat or over the video here as we're going through. And there is a section for Q&A at the end as well. So you can either put them in as we go along or wait until the end. But we do want to make sure that we're answering as many of your questions as possible because really you guys are the reason we're here. So the University of Hartford is a small to medium private institution located in West Hartford, Connecticut. So we're about 15 minutes outside of downtown Hartford, which is nice because it allows us to have a campus like you can see here in this image. A nice, quiet, rural space with some sprawling greens that allows our students to really feel at home on campus. We have about 6,500 total students on the campus, about 5,200 of those being undergraduate students. However, we do keep a 9-to-1 student to faculty ratio. So those numbers might seem a little overwhelming at the start, but that 9-to-1 student to faculty ratio mixed with our 17 to 20 student class size average really makes campus feel a little small and comfortable. There's a lot to be said about that small class size in terms of developing relationships with your peers, but also with your professors. They become your first high quality professional resource as you're getting out into your fields. And we want to make sure that our students are having every opportunity to develop those relationships as they're going along. Again, being in West Hartford, Connecticut, we're in a nice centralized area in New England. We're about 2.5 hours from Boston and about 2 hours from New York City. So a nice, easy access to both of those, hub cities in the Northeast, but also again, that 15-minute access to Hartford and about 40-minute access to Springfield. So a lot of great resources available for our students right at the tips of their fingers. The University of Hartford does have over 100 different academic programs spanning 7 different schools and colleges. If you want to take a look at the word cloud here, you might see, various programs that you have interest in, or the program that you're looking to apply for or hoping to pursue as a career. Anything from physical therapy to business analytics and managerial economics, to our vocal performance program, to architectural design and technology. So one thing that makes us extremely unique is that our 100 programs span over 7 different schools and colleges. And it's not just, kind of 7 schools that are kind of the same, but a little bit different. They're drastically different schools that bring together drastically different styles of student. So if we use the pictures on this slide as a cue, you could be sitting in a class your freshman year, sitting next to a student who's studying nursing, a student who's studying dance, a student who's studying robotics, and a student who's studying communications. So there's a really unique opportunity here for students to bounce ideas off of people that are coming from drastically different backgrounds and who are going to drastically different futures. And that's something that can't really be replicated in other locations. So again, the 7 schools and colleges are listed to the right. What's really excited about those 7 schools and colleges is the little blurb underneath. We are growing as an institution. We have been, at a pretty steady rate over the last few years, adding programs such as digital media and journalism, data analytics. Last year, we added nursing and robotics engineering. This year, we were able to add exercise science as an undergrad degree program. And next fall, we're adding occupational therapy as an undergrad program. So really awesome opportunities for us to expand. And with that expansion comes new opportunities for buildings and for resources. So the university is currently in the process of building a brand new academic building on campus. These are just some artist renderings of what the building is going to look like. They have made great progress over the last few months. They broke ground on this project in March, and it's slated to be completed and open in the fall of 2021. So again, a very speedy build, but it's going to have some really awesome resources. It's going to be home mostly to our allied health science programs, as well as a variety of our engineering programs. And you can see that image on the top right shows kind of the two different types of programs there, right? So one side's a little bit more industrial for the building, for the engineering side of things, while the other side is a little bit more, open and clean looking, and really just supposed to emulate the hospital feel for those health science programs. So programs like physical therapy, nursing, occupational therapy, things along those lines. Few really unique features of this building. You can see in the two bottom pictures that the roof has this green tinge to it. And that's because they wanted to make sure that they were keeping as much of the sprawling green space that it's going into available or, viewable for students. So they're putting a green grass roof on this building. What's also unique about it is the glass atrium that you can see in the top left picture. That really, allows a lot of natural light to go into this building, but allows, a lot of students to see in and experience the building from the outside. The other nice feature to it, you can see in the top left and the bottom right picture, there's a dark gray section of the building, and that's going to be where they're going to put some large bay doors in. And those doors are going to be used on the engineering side of things to allow students to be able to use materials that historically at the institution they hadn't been able to because of size or lab size constraints, but also access. And now there's a parking lot right next to the building there that students are going to be able to bring in some larger materials and really, get some awesome experiences in these various programs. So, we talked a little bit about all the different academic opportunities available. And one thing that's really important in higher ed and, continuing to explore academics is kind of the supports around you. Right. So the University of Hartford is really invested in students, not just in the classroom, but making sure that you're getting the developmental opportunities inside and outside of the classroom. So this image that you're seeing here is our Center for Student Success, which is an addition that was put on to the Gengger Student Union in the summer of 2019. Really great opportunity for students to go in their first year and get really any question they have answered, at the snap of the finger. I usually tell students that it takes, you can either walk out with an answer or they will let you know that they will get you one within 24 to 48 hours. So really good turnaround time. The University of Hartford and the deans and the leadership at the institution really understands how much stress can come for a student in their first year, whether it's your first time ever moving away from home. There's a lot of change going on in your life at this point, and they want to take as much of the stress off your shoulders as they can. And the best way to do that is to give you one singular place to go and get questions answered, and really to be able to get the supports that you need to feel empowered while you're at the University of Hartford. So the Center for Student Success, as I mentioned, is an extension of the Gengger Student Union. And there's two other offices that I like to specifically mention in the Gengger Student Union. So you can see a list of them on the left of this slide. But the Career and Professional Development Office is a huge one for students, as well as the Study Abroad Office. So Study Abroad is a program at the university that makes sure that every single student, no matter what program, has an opportunity to go abroad, whether it's for a full semester, for a 1 month trip, a 2 week trip, or a one week opportunity. But they make sure that no matter what, you have that opportunity. It could be during a spring break. It could be over winter break, during the summer, during the fall semester. But there's nothing really in terms of time constraints that's going to stand in the way. They just want to start having that conversation with you as early as possible to make sure that it aligns and is easy for you. The Career and Professional Development Office, being the other one that I highlighted, is another office that wants to see students starting their freshman year. They're not just a resume and interview boot camp that you go to your senior year. They want to talk with you throughout your 4 years. Listen to kind of what your dreams are and how the university is helping you get there. They want to talk with students who don't know what they want to do and talk with them about their passions and help them kind of think about what opportunities are out there for them to work within that passion. But also talk about students who do know what they want to do and don't know how to get there, what that step is, what comes first, and how the University of Hartford, again, can lift a student up to put them in the best position to pursue those dreams. So we talked about the academics, we talked about some of the support systems in place. there's a lot of development that happens for students in college or in higher education itself. And that comes academically, professionally, but also personally. And the University of Hartford does a great job of putting resources at the fingertips of students. We have over 100 different active clubs and organizations on campus. So if there's something that you've been involved in throughout high school that you want to continue to do, it's likely that we have a club or an organization in place already. But if not, being a small to medium private institution allows us to add clubs, really at the will of students. So you just have to gather some peers and bring a club proposal to the Student Government Association. And, within a couple of weeks, you can have a full-fledged club on campus that you just started. So really great opportunities there to personally grow. If there's something that you've always wanted to do, but you've never had the access to, there's tons of opportunities with our clubs and organizations. What you're seeing on the right there underneath that is just the different categories of clubs that we have. And as you can see, they range from anything from academic clubs to religious-based clubs to student leadership clubs. So there's opportunities abound for you to get involved and to learn a little bit more about yourself throughout this process. One of my favorite quotes when we're giving tours on campus is from our director of dining services. And he tells students every single time that you're here at the University of Hartford for higher education, and that should also include your food. So if you think of it from that perspective, that even our dining services office or department is fully invested in your higher education, that speaks to all the different facets that you're going to have an opportunity to grow within at the university. So those 100 clubs and organizations are a great jumping point to think about whether or not the University of Hartford is a suitcase school, right? That's a question that a lot of guidance counselors are going to tell you to ask schools. Do people pack up and go home on the weekends? What's it like? With over 100 clubs and organizations, that really limits a lot of students leaving. There's a lot of events going on, but also 60% of our students come from outside of the state of Connecticut. So it's really not that simple for students to just pack up and go home for a 2-day weekend. They stick around. And with that, we want to make sure that there are opportunities. So those clubs and organizations have all their events. We have an organization called HEAT, which is the Hartford Events and Activities Team. They put on events throughout the school year. Our dining services has also started putting on events throughout the school year. Our Hart School of Performing Arts, which is one of our 7 schools and colleges, puts on over 400 performances a year. We're NCAA Division I, and we have over 17 athletic teams that all regular season home games are free to students. So, and it can get my eyes crossed when we're talking about the opportunities to keep involved and to keep yourself going and to have different things to do from week to week, and just take advantage of those as a student. Know what's available to you and take those steps to get yourself involved in the community. Sorry. Yeah. So with that being said, hopefully you're liking everything you're hearing, and your next thought is, how do I apply? How do I get to UHart? So there is a really easy process for you. We are a part of the Common Application, or we also have our own web-based app on our website. In order to have a completed file, we need that application complete, which usually includes a personal statement. We need a letter of recommendation and a high school transcript. We're test optional for all of our programs. You can see on the left there, our codes for the SAT and the ACT if you are taking them. Obviously, this year with COVID, things are a little bit different. We've always been test optional. This is not a COVID year adjustment. We understand that test scores aren't always an accurate representation of a student, but if a student tests well and they want that considered as part of their file, we would love to take a peek at that as part of their application. Any students applying for the Hart School, there is some supplemental application process as well as potential auditions depending on the program. And any students interested in the Hartford Art School do have to go through a portfolio review. So some additional pieces, but the standard application process is pretty simple. Again, once you complete your application, you just have to talk to your guidance office, have them send over your letter of recommendation and your transcript, and we can start reviewing your application. Our deadlines are listed on the left there. We are a rolling admission institution, meaning that we do take applications throughout the year. And Early Action 1 has gone by for any seniors in attendance tonight, but Early Action 2 is right around the corner as well. The Early Action deadlines are great because they waive the $30 application fee and they get you an accelerated decision. So if you apply Early Action 1, typically you get a response within 2 to 4 weeks of a completed application. versus Early Action 2. Again, we waive that $30 application fee, and you get a response in typically about 3 to 5 weeks of a completed app. So we try to turn it over a little bit to get you that information about whether or not you got in as fast as possible, so that you can stop thinking about that and start thinking about how it is that you fit in at the University of Hartford. I apologize. I know I can get rolling quick and get a lot of information there, but I'm sure you're all sick of hearing my voice at this point. So I'm going to hand it over to Catherine to start chatting a little bit about financial aid.
Thank you, Nate. Again, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So I'm going to go into some more detail about the financial aid process specific to how it works at the University of Hartford. But to kick it off this evening, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what is financial aid. Many times when I'm talking with families, the first thing that comes to mind when they're thinking about what is financial aid is grants and scholarships. And grants and scholarships don't require any repayment by the student or by the family, and it's that free money that everybody wants. But really, financial aid is inclusive of any type of funding provided to a student or to their parent to help pay for post-secondary educational expenses. And so what that means is that it includes grants and scholarships, but it also includes loan opportunities that families might pursue. It includes employment opportunities, which I'll talk a little bit more about this evening, and how the University of Hartford utilizes employment opportunities for students to help cover their costs. At the University of Hartford, we use a combination of all of these different resources to help a student kind of meet their needs and how to make the University of Hartford educational most affordable for students. Just a quick fact, the University of Hartford does award over $95 million in scholarship and grant aid each academic year. And I'll talk to you a little bit more in future slides about how you can apply for that aid opportunity. So the first step really to the financial aid process is actually applying to the University of Hartford. So every student who submits an application to the University of Hartford, whether it be through the University of Hartford application or through the Common App, is going to automatically be reviewed upon their admission for academic and talent-based awards. And these are in the form of scholarships, and they're usually based on the review of all of the admission requirements that Nate previously discussed. So SAT or ACT scores, if they have been submitted, based on the results of your high school transcript, so your cumulative grade point average, a class rank if that's been submitted. For students who are thinking about applying to either the Hartford Art School or the Hart School, if there is an audition or a portfolio review done, then your academic and talent-based award will be based on that as well. You will automatically know at the time of your admission to the university what you have received for an academic or talent award, how much you're receiving, and how you may renew that award. So in most cases, these awards are renewable for 4 academic years or 8 semesters at the University of Hartford, but there is some academic criteria that students must meet. Sometimes that requires maintaining a cumulative 3.0 GPA. The other program that the Office of Student Financial Aid will help assist students through is our need-based awarding program. So need-based awards are essentially based on the results of the free application for federal student aid, or the FAFSA form. I'll go into a little bit more detail about the FAFSA in just a few minutes, but this is how we are going to determine whether or not a student might be eligible for what we call need-based awards. The University of Hartford does have institutional need-based awarding programs, which offer grants and scholarships to students based on their need. We also participate in all of the federal need-based programs. And for those of you in the room this evening that are from the state of Connecticut, we do participate in the state of Connecticut grant programs as well. The only other state grant funding program that the University of Hartford participates in is the Vermont State Grant Program. All other state grant programs will not transfer to Connecticut schools. So that's just something to keep in mind as you're going through the process. One common question that I get from families is, how much money might I receive in terms of need-based awards? And the answer to that is it depends. Every student is reviewed on an individual basis to determine their need and how much funding that they will need to receive, again, to make the University of Hartford education affordable. And so it will vary from student to student based on their need level. As I mentioned earlier, one type of financial aid that doesn't often come to mind at first thought, but is definitely an opportunity for students, is employment. So the University of Hartford does participate in a need-based employment program called the Federal Work Study Program. The Federal Work Study Program allows students to work on campus in many of the different offices on campus, such as the Office of Student Financial Aid, our Office of Undergraduate Admission, our Center for Student Success. They all hire student workers to help assist them with their day-to-day operations. And those students earn a biweekly paycheck. Students can then use that biweekly paycheck to help pay for their educational expenses. There is a question on the FAFSA that asks if you'd like to participate in a federal work study program. And if you answer yes to that question, you will automatically be reviewed for this opportunity. Again, it is a need-based program, so you do have to have a certain need level in order to be eligible for it. And you would find out if you're eligible to participate in this program at the University of Hartford when you receive your financial aid award letter from us. And I will talk to you a little bit about that timeline. For those of you joining us this evening that are thinking about pursuing a degree or a career in education, the University of Hartford does participate in the Federal Teach Grant Program. The Federal Teach Grant Program allocates funding to students pursuing education who commit to teaching in a high need field, such as, for example, special education in a high need school district. And so that's something that the University of Hartford Financial Aid Office can walk you through in determining your eligibility for if you are pursuing education. The university also does review all students for our federal direct loan program. So the Federal Direct Loan Program is a federal loan program offered to students based on the results of the FAFSA form. These are loan funds, so the student does have to repay these upon graduation, and our office will really work closely with students to help walk them through the process, talk to them about what requirements are needed in order to participate in these loan programs, but just know that this is something that you will likely see on your financial aid award letter. So I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the FAFSA form. So for those seniors in the room, you may have already completed the FAFSA form. For those juniors in the room, it's a little early to have completed the FAFSA form, but the FAFSA does stand for the free application for federal student aid, the keyword there being free. So there is no payment required in order to complete the FAFSA form. This is an electronic application, so it is completed online through studentaid.gov or via the My Student Aid mobile app. I actually suggest the My Student Aid mobile app if you have an iPhone or an Android and can do that easily. The interesting thing about the My Student Aid mobile app is it actually narrows down the questions on the FAFSA form so that you're only having to answer one question at a time. Sort of takes some of the pressure off of completing the FAFSA form, so you're not looking at a whole list of questions. So it's just something to keep in mind as you're going through this process. But again, it is an electronic application. The FAFSA form does collect both demographic and financial information for both the student and the parent in most cases. And so what that means is that the parent and the student must have their 2019 tax information available when they sit down to do the FAFSA form for the 2021-2022 academic year. So again, that's just something to keep in mind as you are going through the process. Just make sure that you have your tax information up to date so that you're putting the most accurate information. One question that we are often getting from families, as a result of the pandemic is, what if my 2019 tax information doesn't accurately reflect where my family is now in terms of our financial standing? And my answer to that is this: still complete the FAFSA using your 2019 tax information. That is a requirement. But then get in contact with our office either via email or give us a call, and we can walk you through what steps you might be able to take so that your FAFSA information is more accurately reflective of your current financial standing. So again, there are some things that you can do, but definitely just contact our office directly to talk about that. So this is just a quick screenshot of studentaid.gov. Of course, if this is your first time completing the FAFSA, you'll click that new to the FAFSA process, start here. The University of Hartford school code is listed on the screen at this point, and you will need that as you're going through the FAFSA in order to make sure that the University of Hartford has received your FAFSA application electronically. Again, in terms of the timeline, for the seniors in the room, the FAFSA was available as of October 1st of 2020. If there are students in the room that are not seniors, the FAFSA will become available on October 1st of your senior year. So in terms of when you need to complete the FAFSA by, the FAFSA does need to be completed by February 15th in order to meet our preferred completion date and in order to maximize the amount of funding that you will receive. Just keep in mind that as you're going through the process, everything is done electronically, including the signature on the FAFSA. And so the real first part of completing the FAFSA form is to create what's called a Federal Student Aid ID. It is a username and password that students and parents will use for all federal sites related to the federal financial aid process. So I mentioned earlier that our office will help work with students to complete requirements for federal loan programs and that sort of thing. You'll use this same login information. So it's really important that when you create that you save it in a safe spot because the student will need it as they go through the financial aid process. But again, that federal student aid username and password is going to be used to electronically sign the FAFSA, which will be needed in order for our office to process it. Once the FAFSA has been completed and processed, the student will receive a copy of what's called their student aid report. The student aid report is going to give the student lots of information about the information that they put on the FAFSA. At a quick glance, you can go over the information, make sure you haven't made any errors. It will also tell you if anything additional is needed. So in some cases, students might need to provide a copy of their passport to the Office of Student Financial Aid. They might need to provide copies of tax information. It might alert a student that the FAFSA was processed, but that there is an error on it that needs to be resolved. So those are really important things that the student will find out from their student aid report. Of course, the Office of Financial Aid will also contact the student to let them know if there's any issue, but that is the first place that you'll be able to find those things. Need-based financial aid is renewable every year, much like those academic and talent awards that I spoke about, but it is always going to be based on the FAFSA information. So the FAFSA does need to be completed every year as the student is moving through the process. One question that I often get from families is, we don't think we're going to be eligible for financial aid. Should we still file the FAFSA? And my answer is always yes. For the first year, the student should file the FAFSA. There is no harm in doing so. The FAFSA usually takes only about 30 minutes to complete, so it's not a huge time commitment. And students are often surprised by the availability of financial aid at the University of Hartford. So even if you think that, let's say, for example, your neighbor didn't receive financial aid from the schools that they applied to, therefore you probably won't receive financial aid. Still complete it, at least for the University of Hartford, so that we're able to go through the full process with you and you can make a final decision about your costs, knowing that you've exercised, all opportunities at the university. Based on the results of the FAFSA, the University of Hartford is going to receive what's called your expected family contribution. And you'll actually see this listed as part of your financial aid award packet when you receive it from the University of Hartford. Essentially, the expected family contribution, or the EFC, is calculated based on the results of the FAFSA. So all the information that you put in the FAFSA form, each institution is going to receive a copy of your EFC. The EFC is a measure of your family's financial strength. It is often misinterpreted as the amount that you're going to pay to attend an institution. But this number is going to be the same at every single institution that you're applying to. So if you're applying to the University of Hartford or you're applying to a local community college, that EFC number is going to be exactly the same. But what is going to be different is the costs and the availability of financial aid at all of those schools. So again, this is just the need index that we're using to compare students on an even level in terms of what their need is. Cost of attendance. So when we're talking about cost of attendance, I like to talk to families about the different components included in the cost of attendance. So if you go to the University of Hartford's financial aid website, you will see listed our full cost of attendance. Our full cost of attendance includes both direct costs and indirect costs. When we talk about direct costs, what we're talking about are costs directly paid to the university or directly charged from the university to the student to attend that institution. Direct costs generally include tuition, fees, room, and board, or your meal plan. What the University of Hartford also publishes is what's called your indirect costs. So these are additional educational expenses and an average that a student might incur by attending the university. We don't bill students for for these costs. They are just, again, averages that are given to students so that they can make a wise decision based on what costs might be incurred while attending. So when you get your financial aid award packet, you will see listed both the direct costs and the indirect costs as part of that. What I always tell families is to look at the big picture. And so what I mean by that is always look at the net price. So what the net price is the published cost minus any financial aid that the family might be receiving from the university. And our office will definitely help walk students through that and calculating out what their net price is going to be and help them determine, if there is anything left to be paid in terms of the difference between their costs and the financial aid that they're receiving, that they have many different options to help cover that. And again, that our office will definitely help families through that. Once a student has completed the FAFSA or been admitted to the university and completed the FAFSA form, our office will send the student in the mail their financial aid award letter. And again, included in the financial aid award letter will be information about your EFC, about your costs, and we'll give you the full or the maximum amount of financial aid that you are eligible for based on the results of that FAFSA form. From there, we do ask families to work directly with our office to determine what options are going to work best for their family in terms of financing what might be left. And that may include talking to our office about our full service payment plan. So the university does participate in a payment plan, which allows families to split up the cost of a certain semester over 5 months. So over the full length of the semester. We also will help counsel families on additional loan options. Those additional loan options might include a parent borrowing on behalf of a student to help cover costs, or the student borrowing on additional loans to help cover their costs. And of course, we also will help students through the outside scholarship process. And what we mean by outside scholarships is scholarships not affiliated with the university. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about that next. So in terms of applying for additional scholarships, many civic organizations, nonprofit groups, churches offer these additional scholarship funds. One place that you might start is to talk with your guidance office about some local scholarships. So they're generally the best people to be aware of things that might be local to your town. The University of Hartford Financial Aid Office, though, will help students search for national scholarships. And we do have listed on our website a number of different outside scholarship search engines that students can use to help facilitate searching for them. My best advice to you is to start this early in the process. So if you're a senior, you can start looking for outside scholarships now, and just know that the deadlines for these scholarships are generally fairly early in the process. So usually, February, March timeframe is when you're going to start to see deadlines approaching, because they like to let students know before the end of their senior year whether or not they're going to be approved for these scholarships or receive any of these additional scholarships. Sometimes those require additional essays or transcripts or recommendations. So just make sure you're giving yourself enough time. Do not wait until you make your final decision to attend a university to begin applying for these additional scholarship funds. Again, you do not want to miss those deadlines because you will become ineligible if you miss that deadline. So in terms of the financial aid process, as I mentioned earlier, it is possible that our office will request from you some additional documentation. That might be a copy of your tax information. It might be a copy of a passport or a social security card. So we will keep in touch with you. I also suggest that you keep in touch with us. So make sure that we've received your FAFSA form, double check that you've included our school code on the FAFSA so that you are making sure that you're going to, as quickly as possible, receive a copy of your financial aid award letter. One thing that I want to mention is that we haven't begun to send financial aid award letters just yet, but we are hoping to do that within the next week or two. And that will be for students who have already been admitted to the university and who we've already received the FAFSA for. So just keep in mind that it is not unlikely that you have not heard from us yet, but we're hoping, again, to send out that first batch of financial aid award letters within the next couple of weeks. Attend our accepted students days, attend our opportunities to engage with the financial aid staff, ask lots of questions. We're here to help you through this process. We want to help, again, make University of Hartford education affordable for you. So ask us all the questions that you need to so that you feel very comfortable in this process. In order to finalize the financial aid process, you do need to submit your deposit to the university by May 1st, which is the same deadline that our admission office has. So once you've made that decision to be a Hartford Hawk, make sure you get that deposit into us soon, but definitely by May 1st so that we can get you moving through the rest of the process, which includes an orientation, and again, getting lots more information about the university. So listed on the screen now is just our contact information for both the Office of Undergraduate Admission and the Office of Student Financial Aid at the University of Hartford. You can find lots more information about admission and about financial aid at our website, and you'll find lots more information specifically, again, about the scholarships by visiting the University of Hartford website. We're currently open Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. So you can definitely contact us. There's lots of ways to get in contact, whether it be via email, by giving us a call, or using our live chat feature through our website. So I think at this point, we will open it up for the Q&A. So go ahead and use that Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to ask us any questions that you might have. I see a couple of questions have already come in. The first being, who would we reach out to confirm that the university has received the FAFSA? And I think that the best place or the best way to do that is to email our office at finaid@hartford.edu, which you'll see listed on your screen right now. And we can confirm that we've received it. You'll just have to supply your information, your first, your last name, and your date of birth so we can confirm. Another good question that has come in is there any income limitation to qualify for financial aid or for grants? And the answer is no. So qualifying for academic and talent awards is always going to be based on your admission requirements. So again, no income information there. In terms of need-based financial aid, is always going to be based on the results of the FAFSA form, which includes information that is not only based on your income. There's lots of other information that goes into that. So I can't say a specific threshold of, salary range or anything like that. But what I do say is just complete the FAFSA definitely in your first year. And if you choose not to complete it for years 2 through 4, that's fine, but always complete it in the first year so that we can review you for the maximum amount of aid.
All right, just had a question come in about our classes right now and the format that students are encountering this year at the University of Hartford. Percentage to give you would be a little tough. Most of our classes are being offered hybrid. So we gave all of our students an opportunity to decide at the beginning of the year if they wanted to return to campus or stay home. About 80% of our typical amount of students on campus decided to come back. So we have a pretty lively campus still, but they elected, in terms of safety's sake, to make sure that we're keeping social distancing guidelines, to do a lot of hybrid opportunities. So students may be in class one day, but then taking class from their dorm room or from the library the next. If students wanted to opt to be completely remote, they had that option as well. But for the most part, students are taking classes in a hybrid fashion right now. I do want to draw everyone's attention again to that Q&A. It's quieting down. I know we've answered a decent amount of them as we've gone through the presentation, but no question's a bad question at this point. One thing I always tell students and families when we're able to meet with you is that we're one of your best resources in terms of finding out as much information as you can, as quickly as you can. So take advantage of it. Ask away. There's no bad questions. Looks like we just got one that I'm going to turn over to you, Catherine, if you want to.
Yep, thanks, Nate. I did have a question here about how do you report a checking account balance? And the answer is that the checking account balance is always reported based on the day that you completed the FAFSA. Now, if that number is shifting from day to day, just contact our office. Don't change it on the FAFSA. Always put in there exactly what is showing in that account as of the day you completed the FAFSA. But then contact our office and we can walk you through what we might be able to do in order to get that changed if it's not reflective of your current financial situation. I see a question, and I'll go ahead and answer this live, about what information we might need in order to let you know if the FAFSA has been received. We need the student's first and last name, their date of birth, and some other identifying information. It would be helpful if the student emailed us with the email address that they used on their application so that we can make sure that we're finding the correct student. But we'll definitely walk you through that process. But definitely start by just emailing finaid@hartford.edu.
Awesome. Thank you, Catherine. Someone's also asking in terms of the athletics, if students need to be recruited. As is the case at most institutions, being recruited obviously helps, but there are some spaces available for walk-on opportunities for students depending on the roster constructed by the coaches. That varies year to year. So I always tell students who are interested in athletics to reach out, do as much research and touch base with the coaches as you can, or with the athletics departments, and just figure out kind of what makes the most sense for you. So follow up to the hybrid question, or the class method question. If a student wanted to go to all in-person classes, could they? And the quick answer to that is no, but again, mostly just because of the hybrid method that most classes are putting out there. If a student wanted to arrange something with a professor on a case-by-case basis, professors are pretty receptive to those different opportunities. So again, it really would just depend on whether or not a professor could welcome a student into a class every day on a safe basis, if you will. So Catherine, before I hand it over to you, there's a question here about support systems in place for students with learning disabilities and learning challenges, which is a great question. We have an office on campus called our Accessibility Services Office, which offers a variety of resources to students, whether it's extended test taking time, note taking opportunities, review sessions, things like that. Really just different things that are in place to assist students to make sure that they are getting as much support as they need throughout that process. Another office that wants to talk with students pretty early in the process. So if you're thinking about attending the University of Hartford and you would like to get involved with the Accessibility Services Office, email us at admission@hartford.edu, and then we can get you in touch with our office to start talking about what supports can be put in place. But there's no shortage of opportunity there. Catherine, I see that you'd like to answer this other question, so I'm going to mute myself now.
Thanks, Nate. So I did see a question come in that is asking about the 2020-2021 FAFSA and whether or not there is still eligibility. So if you are a student who is thinking about attending the University of Hartford for the spring of 2021, yes, that FAFSA is still available and you will need to complete that particular FAFSA in order to be reviewed for need-based financial aid. But any students who are thinking about starting with the University of Hartford from fall of 2021 on should complete the 21-22 FAFSA. So I hope that answers your question. There is a question here, and I believe it's regarding outside scholarship opportunities. And the question is, are scholarship opportunities still available to students after graduating high school? And the answer is yes. In fact, many students sort of forget to continue to apply for outside scholarship opportunities after their senior year of high school. It's easy when you're a senior in high school and your guidance office is sending out lots of information to you as you're going through the college search process about scholarship opportunities. But yes, those scholarships still are available. And again, our office can definitely help you through that process when you're, in your second, third, or fourth year. Nate, it looks like there's a question in here. I believe that is for you.
Yep. Question came across about deferments and if that affects a student's acceptance into the institution. And the quick answer to that is no. If a student is accepted into the University of Hartford and elects to take a gap semester or a gap year, we don't want to hold that against you. So what happens is you just have to let us know. We can put that into the system. And then as we get closer to the term that you'd like to start, you'll start getting communications again from the University of Hartford to let you know kind of about what your next steps are. There's a few different ways that you can defer. Most common is after depositing and committing to the university. Students who are looking to, again, take that gap semester or the gap year to explore different opportunities. Oh, this is an excellent question. What is the objective of the university and what does it want out of its students? So again, excellent question. And it can be a little bit different depending on which of the 7 schools and colleges that you're applying to. So, in terms of what we're looking for in a student is we're looking for someone who's passionate about what they want to pursue. We want to see somebody who really wants to and really has drive to improve themselves personally and professionally. And we want to see somebody that we can help, that we can help lift you up to where it is that you want to be. I know I mentioned that a couple of times in my presentation, but we like to be a stepping stone for students on their way to great things. And, it kind of starts with that in terms of solid concrete that you're looking for. Our average admitted student GPA is about a 3.0, and our average admitted student SAT score is about an 1140. Again, test optional, so no student has to submit those test scores, but students who do, that's about what we average on campus. Another question about if we're doing in-person campus tours or just virtual. Excellent question. We do offer virtual campus tours and we do offer some in-person opportunities. They are a little bit on the smaller side, and due to COVID travel restrictions, there are some restrictions in place, but you can find more information about those on our website, or if you want to email us at admission@hartford.edu, we'd be happy to organize a visit with you. Also a good question. For students who are not deferring, will they be impacted by those who have? In other words, so yes, it makes sense to start. No, students will not be affected. So essentially the question is that if a student who's a senior or who was a senior last year graduating in 2020 deferred to the fall of 2021, if their deferment would take away from the opportunity from a senior this year. That is not the case. The way we approach our admission process is that if a student is eligible to attend the University of Hartford, we will admit you. We go through that process on case-by-case basis. So, it's not like we hit a quota and we start, reevaluating the way that we do things. If you are a student who we think will benefit from the University of Hartford's resources and the University of Hartford in general, we will admit you. Is there an early and early 2 admission? I thought there was. Yes, so there are a couple of early action deadlines. Again, we are rolling, as you're saying there. Early action 1 is November 15th every year. So if you're a sophomore, junior, senior, early action 1 is November 15th. Again, $30 application fee is waived and you get an accelerated decision in about 2 to 4 weeks. Early action 2 is December 15th, where we waive that $30 application fee again, and you get your accelerated decision about 3 to 5 weeks from a completed application. So yeah, that's pretty much the short way to answer that question for you. Seems like it's quieting down a little, so I'll do another call out for questions. Again, no question's a bad question. We're happy to help out however we can, and if anything comes up after the fact, utilize the contact information that you can see on your screen here. This job, and I won't speak for you, Catherine, but I know for me, this job gets a lot more exciting when we have people to talk to. So give us a call, shoot us an email. Let's work together as you go through this college search process. Follow up to the early action question, what regular decision is. So we don't have a specific deadline. That's what the rolling admission portion means, meaning that we do accept applications throughout the year. The early action, again, just has those perks that I mentioned, but we are accepting applications, around the clock, 365. Son applied early action. When does he need to accept it if he wants to attend the University of Hartford? Excellent question. So the University of Hartford operates on the National Deposit Day deadline of May 1st. So that is when we encourage families to submit their tuition deposit. It can be submitted at any point in time between now and then, but we encourage students to engage in dialogue with us, the financial aid office. The last thing we want is for you to make an impulse decision. We want you to feel informed. We want you to feel prepared, and we want you to feel like you're making the best decision for you. So utilize us, utilize financial aid, utilize our students, and ask as many questions as you can. Come see us. You get a lot from stepping foot on campus in terms of knowing when it's the right fit for you, and we like to try to support that feeling for you folks. Due to COVID, SATs are hard to come by. You're absolutely right there. Would we apply? So essentially the question that I'm getting here is if we apply early action and apply test optional, if we can ever change that to submit scores. And the answer is yes. So at any point in time, we can make adjustments to your application. Again, it just really has to be communicated to us. So if you apply early action and you don't have test scores, but you're able to get in and take the SAT at any point between now, really, and when you enroll, we can reprocess that application and add those test scores. Same can be said for major changes. If a student decides, applies one thing and then decides that they want to change their focus or narrow their focus in a little bit more, we can process changes throughout the process, for lack of better phrasing. Again, just communicate with us. We're happy to work with you. Does Hartford have a music major in general, or are those different aspects within the music program? Excellent question. I'd like to prod for a little bit more information. We have a instrumental and vocal performance programs. Those are two separate programs. And then within each of those, it breaks it down by instrument. So there is music programs and opportunities there. If a student doesn't want to pursue it at a major level, there are additional opportunities as well, be it the pep band, auditioning for ensembles through the Hart School. Even though you're not a student within the Hart School, there are opportunities for you to continue to fuel those passions while at the university. Would the changes regarding SAT score submission go to financial aid or admission? Regardless, we work out of the same building. We're pretty much the same office. So either one is okay. We can make sure to update it. I don't know how you feel about this, Catherine, but I would recommend sending it to us just so that we can process it on our end as well, and then get it over to the financial aid side. So us being admissions. Excellent follow-up. I apologize for the lack of clarity there. Do the school dorms ever get full, or for some reason no room available? If so, how do you handle excess students? So again, great question. It's not something that we've run into with my time at the institution. There's a variety of different housing options available for students, and we seem to have a good grasp on how many students are coming in and how many we can fit. But if that's ever a situation we come into, that's a great problem to have. Because that typically means that first year students are going to be eligible to live in some upperclassmen housing options. So great resources there. The opportunities are available for you. So if you want to live on campus, we have room for you. Son applied early action and hasn't heard. So great question. Anybody who has applied early action and is a little concerned about not having heard yet, again, the accelerated decision process comes from the date of completed application. So a student may have completed an application by November 15th, but maybe the guidance office was a little slow getting the transcript over to us, or the letter of recommendation came a week later than we were anticipating. It's from the date of having that last document needed to deem the application complete. So if you have questions, feel free to, again, email us at admission@hartford.edu, and we can look into your file a little bit deeper, and potentially get it read for you very quickly and get you that turnaround. Thank you for joining us. For those of you who are thanking us for being here. If a class has too few students but passionate members, how is that situation handled? That's an excellent question. So typically, as long as classes are available, they'll work with students. If a class is registered, it might turn into, similar to an independent study type of situation if it's that low an enrollment. But case by case, typically that is not the case. That happens for students. If classes are available, they usually have a decent amount of students register for them. Yes, Jillian, there is an admissions portal. You should have received an email with your login information, but you can also go to our website. Your username is just going to be the email that you use to apply, and then you should have a PIN number that was emailed to you. If you did not receive the PIN number, check your spam. And if you still didn't receive it, or if you just prefer, you can reach out to us and we can reset that for you. Again, admission@hartford.edu there. Is housing being affected by COVID? Also a great question. This year, housing was affected a little bit by COVID. We took some rooms that were historically doubles and made them into singles. But for the most part, we tried to replicate a standard year at the University of Hartford. We tried to encourage students to be social. We added a lot of outdoor opportunities for students in the fall semester, whether it was Adirondack chairs. We have an outdoor fire pit that students utilized. Dining services put a ton of tables out. They do food truck Fridays, really just encouraging students to spend their time outside together. But in terms of the housing options specifically, yes, the adjustment was to keep things singles as options, but students could also be in doubles if they wanted to have that roommate still. It was really just as an optional piece for added safety, if you will. All right, starting to quiet down. So thank you all for joining us this evening. I'll do a quick little plug for our social media pages. Feel free to follow us on any of these social media pages. The Instagram in particular is one of my favorite to follow, especially if you like food. Dining Services does a lot of takeovers on the Instagram page to show you what's going on in the commons, but also to throw out some staff spotlights and some of the recipes that I have. So give it a look. Reach out to us, ask us questions. We're happy to help out as much as we can throughout the process. And that's all I have. Catherine, anything else?
Nope, no final questions that I'd like to answer, but I would like to just thank everybody for joining us this evening. And just as a follow-up, get in contact with the financial aid office. We're happy to do virtual appointments with all of you to go through the process, answer your questions, help you figure out how to navigate this somewhat confusing process, and make it as easy for you as possible.
Awesome. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and have a great evening. Hopefully we'll see you on campus soon.